Hey everybody, when you take a look at the Dremio UI when you first log in, you're going to see several things. You're going to see a view of your data across several sources. So every Dremio project has a default Dremio catalog, and these catalogs are going to be the center point of Dremio's data lakehouse management features, allowing you to basically track views, Apache Iceberg tables, be able to do automated table maintenance on those Apache Iceberg tables, so that way you don't have to worry about maintaining your tables on your data lake. So that way your data lake can feel like a database where it just works. Now, as you can see here, I have several different sources, which could be additional Dremio catalogs, along with things like data lakes, data warehouses, and databases that can all connect to Dremio. Okay, giving you a wide reach into your data world. Now, when you add a source on Dremio, you can add a sample source with sample data, so that way you can practice working with Dremio. So in that case, I have the sample data set, and on there's an Apache Iceberg table for the taxi trips, New York City taxi trips. Now, this table has a lot of data on it. Let's just figure out how much data is actually in this table. Count star. Let's actually just run a count on this table. Okay, and again, right now Dremio is running a query directly on the data lake, and as you can see, this table has about almost 340 million records. Okay, and Dremio did that count in 1 second. Now, what happens if we try to do something a little bit more complicated? Like usually for BI dashboards, what you're doing is you're doing complex aggregation queries that involve sort of group bys. Okay, so first let's just actually run a query on the raw table, so that way we can see what our fields are. Okay. So we're going to run the query on the full table, and we can see that that ran it in 2 seconds, just a select star, okay, on 340 million records. So now let's actually create a aggregation query. So let's say I want to find sort of the average passenger count, or actually I want to find the average trip distance in miles. Okay. So we're going to say as average distance. Actually, we'll just do it this way, average distance. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to group by, okay, passenger count. So actually, I'm going to also want to find passenger count as my select. So passenger count. So we're going to look for the passenger count and average trip distance. And then we're going to group that by passenger count. So we can find out group by passenger count. Okay, and I'm just going to do that to make it a little bit easier to read. Okay, so I have this query, and again, this is going to be pretty complex because it has to average the trip distance for each row and has to do it for each possible number of passengers. So let's see how long this is going to take just using pure sort of the raw Dremio query engine, just crunching those numbers. And then I'm going to show you a nice secret that takes us even further and blazes us forward, so that way you can have like sub-second, really crisp BI dashboards. Okay, and you see that it was able to do that calculation within 11 seconds. That is pretty fast for 340 million records. Okay, and I'm not using sort of the most powerful engine settings that I could be using. Okay, but we can make this even faster. Okay, what we can do is that right over here to the side, I can see this details panel. And if I open this up, it's going to take me to this detailed view where I can see a feature called reflections. Now, reflections essentially kind of has the same approach as BI extracts or cubes, where you're pre-calculating sort of aggregate results. The difference is, one, it's going to be maintained by Dremio. It's set up as an Apache Iceberg table under the hood, and basically Dremio is going to make sure to avoid things like out of memory issues, keep the information crisp, and allow you to kind of design exactly what information you're optimizing for. So in this case, I'm optimizing for pickup date time and passenger count, and I will just kind of make sure I put both of those on both sides. Okay, but you can just choose which dimensions, which measures you want to optimize for, and kind of really customize it. And then what I do is I just turn on aggregation reflections, because that's what aggregation reflections are. Those are the ones that are like BI extracts and cubes, while raw reflections are going to be more like materialized views, where they are materializing the results, but what they are doing is creating an iceberg representation. And the cool thing about raw reflections is that you can choose which columns you want to materialize, how do you want them sorted, how do you want them partitioned, so that way you have a really optimized sort of materialization that Dremio is going to maintain and auto update for you, giving you maximum performance and also being able to intelligently swap them. So you'll be able to actually take advantage of these reflections on multiple data sets without a user having to specify it. Dremio will recognize when these reflections would be helpful in getting you a faster query. But once I set up these settings, I click save, and it's going to begin generating the reflection. So I'll see right here, once it's done generating the reflection, I should see a footprint right here. Okay, once it's done, I can see the footprint of that reflection. And now if I go back to my SQL editor, okay, and if I were to go back and, let's see here, let me go back to that data set. Samples. New York City taxi trips. Here we go. Okay, and let's say if I were to do that group by again. So here we have that same query we did before with the average, which again took 11 seconds. Let's see what happens now that we've turned on reflections. Okay, so I'm going to hit run. Okay, and that time it took a fraction of the time, and if I run it again, it's going to be even faster. Okay, and that time it was like less than a second. So again, basically Dremio's constantly optimizing the queries. And again, this is on 340 million records directly on your data lake. So now in this case, I could directly connect that to a BI tool like Tableau or Power BI by just clicking these buttons, and people can be running BI dashboards directly on the raw data set right there from their data lake pretty easily and pretty performantly, making it easy to sort of craft the views you want across all your different data sources and be able to create performant dashboards and reports from them. So let's take a look at some other features.